everybody and welcome. In my last video, I did a review of the great roof rack from FrontRunner. So in today's video, I want to talk about how much does having a roof rack affect your gas mileage. I took 2 trips through the Southwest, one through the states of California, Arizona, and New Mexico, and the other through Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. As far as the driving, I'm a pretty relaxed driver. I just stick to whatever the speed limit is. And I didn't skew any of the data, so it's really, whenever I needed gas, I filled it up and I drove normally. So none of this is like, hey, I'm tracking my gas mileage, let's get the best I can. This is a pretty accurate representation of how I drive normally. And keep in mind, this is not a super scientific video. There are so many different variables and it's beyond my capabilities to even try something like that, but hopefully this information will help you. On the left is a trip without a roof rack, and on the right is the trip with the roof rack. The overall difference between the two is almost 3.5 miles per gallon. I found it funny that even though I had less range, I still drove about the same distance per tank of gas. Also interesting is that my MPG with my roof rack is about what the Wilderness is rated at normally, about 25 miles per gallon. Without it, I was getting a little over 28 miles per gallon. My number one takeaway from this information I gathered and my experience is that the biggest effect on your MPG is not necessarily your roof rack, it is how fast you are driving. In a wilderness, the faster you drive, the worse your gas mileage will be, and this is made exponentially worse with a roof rack. On highways where the speed limit is 75 miles an hour, you can see that I was barely getting 21 MPG. However, on back roads and small highways where the speed limit is 50, I could get almost 30 miles to the gallon even with the roof rack. There's almost a 9 mile per gallon difference in when I would go 75 versus when I would go 50. I did some very rough math with the MPG and the 18-gallon tank on the Outback, and the difference in when you go 75 miles an hour versus 50 is about 130 miles in range. One of the biggest reasons for this difference in MPG is because of the Wilderness's turbo motor. Anything over 2000 RPM is when the turbo starts to spool, and the more the turbo spools, the more fuel you need, and so the faster you go, the worse your gas mileage will be. If you're only going 50 to 55 miles an hour, you are drastically cutting down the fuel your turbo needs, which will save your gas mileage. As far as the actual driving experience I had with the roof rack, the added weight was the biggest thing that I had to get used to. And this mostly had to do with stopping distances, because it's not like the car couldn't stop or anything, but you can really burn through your brake pads if you're not careful because of that added weight. So if I'm honest, I found that the added weight and stopping distances had a much bigger effect on my driving experience than any loss of MPG. Okay, so my final thoughts and some tips. If you want good gas mileage in your wilderness, with or without a roof rack, you have to keep your speeds low. This can be difficult on the US interstate system where the speed limit is 75 miles an hour. So I would recommend try taking some of those back roads and highways. You get the benefit of having better gas mileage because you're going slower, but you also get to see more of the country and like those little small towns that you may have missed taking the US interstate system. Higher speeds, city traffic, and aggressive driving all have a huge effect on your MPG, so taking those back roads will drastically cut that out, and hopefully you should see an increase in the range and your MPG on the Wilderness. Anyway, as we wrap up, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I do have a small plug in that I made another channel where I'm putting some of the videos that I've made on my trips. So if you've ever been curious on where I've gone or what I've seen, I made a channel so you can check out those videos. It's a channel called Micro Travels. There's a link in the description. Check it out if you want to subscribe. Awesome. They're pretty short, so you know it's not a huge investment to watch them. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.